Good morning. Today we have Yuko Hasegawa, who is Chief Curator, the Museum of Contemporary Art, Tokyo. And she was Chief Curator and Founding Artistic Director from 1999 to 2006 at the 21st Century Museum of Contemporary Art. And she's currently a Professor of Curatorial and Art Theory at the Department of Art Science, Tama Art University, Tokyo. Welcome, Yuko, to Fort Kochi and to this fantastic Biennale. What have been your experiences thus far this morning at the Kochi Biennale?
Because this is second time to make a visit and Kochi Biennale, and I make a visit and the first one, and I was so impressed because also this environment, also this some kind of history, also organization of this biennial, because there are young artists and also young people and helping this biennial. Also the artists collaborate with the critic. Also this is not kind of the top-down biennale and by government, and this is really bottom up. People just very have the strong passion to organize this biennial. That looks very fresh. So that's why I enjoy very much.
Has there been a change in curatorial practices around the world? You talked about a bottoms-up approach rather than a top-down approach. Has there been similar tendencies across the world in curatorial practices?
Because there are several, biennials really the private foundation started, because also young people, also the artists, and also the art world people just be wish to do that. Because I think for instance I saw a very interesting project in Georgia, because young people also started a small triennale and as a part of the education. So this is a very small, tiny, but it's full of good energy. So for instance, something like that is one example. But also another thing, like São Paulo Biennial. But the São Paulo Biennial is a very long history. But they just once and stop, but restarted again. But a lot of strong cooperation with local artists also, like the people is supporting art. So this is a foundation. That also, it's quite similar and looks like a very authentic biennale, but it's also come from the the band and from the bottom. So this is one example, very large scale, also very small scale. Yeah, Georgia and São Paulo.
Okay. In 2010, you spoke about what you call soft conceptualism. And this is a conceptual environment, a conceptual biennale. Could you shed a little more light on what you meant by soft conceptualism?
Because soft conceptualism is I just talking about a new type of the conceptualism. Because so-called conceptual art was quite established and quite theorized and like in the 60s, 70s, but Western context. But also, sometimes non-Western people is very much, and have different ideas. And for instance, like private, also public, also individual, also collectiveness, also relations and personal activity, society is quite slightly different. That means, if we just brought only conceptual art and within the context of the Western regime, it's not enough. But I said it's more slightly not talking about strong theoretical conceptual ideas, more the involving people to make some platform to be shared. That means soft conceptualism. Because also, for instance, like creating this biennial with the people, also creating a certain place making, also creating more open infrastructure, not like a rigid museum. So also this all the activities I so-called soft conceptualism. Also, if artists don't mention about directly about the socio-political issue, but it's just reflecting on his work and her work is talking about that. Also give an idea to people to consider about their own situation. That could be very also interesting activity what artists have to do. That means I said all this phenomena to including those kind of collective activity, soft conceptualism.
Right. Do you see that kind of presence of that conceptual approach at the Kochi Biennale?
Yeah, because I can say this biennial, for instance, like topic is not directly a socio-political issue, but mentioning about history of the city, also history of the colonial, also history of our kind of contemporaneous, also turn to a big cosmology. Yes. So that's also very different levels as I mentioned about that. Because if we are talking about what happened in the next country, is talking about what happened, and future, and also kind of incredible for future. So something like that. So that also jumping between one space and to the others, and also jumping from one time to the other time. This is kind of the space for imagination is quite enormous. That means for me it's interesting. This happened in India in this region, and that works very well. But this all the same themes happened in New York. It doesn't work so much. Because this is a kind of the ideas, just kind of embrace those kind of imaginary, fantastic ideas. Not only kind of socio-political things, but also curate widely using this kind of the power of the venues and the topos, yes, to just creating such an imagination magnetic field related to current topics. So this is also when I see how utilize this kind of the condition as their curatorial statement. It's very kind of smart. That's my point.
All right. Okay. Could you tell us something about the show that you curated, titled Encounters in the 21st Century Polyphony at the 21st Century Museum of Contemporary Art?
Yes.
Could you tell about two things? One, of course, the idea of encounters in the 21st century, and also your founding reflections on the museum.
Yes, because I just am thinking about what a curatorial statement and the beginning of 21st century, because I just put 3 keywords to consider about summing up to what the 20th century is, because 3 M's man, money, materialism, because it's a capitalism, also individualism, also those kind of materialistic ideas. So that that make a big success in the 20th century, but also cause a lot of problem. So 21st century, and we have to take it those kind of big success, also failure of the modernism again, but we have to survive 21st century together. So that means instead of the 3 M's, and I just coined the 3 keywords, the 3 C's. 3 C's is coexistence, and collective intelligence, and consciousness. That the 3 C's can be a keyword to surviving together. So that this is my basic curatorial ideas, because when I just creating a new institution, 21st Century Museum, and in Japan, and this really kind of based on this kind of 3 C's ideas, because also curator doesn't have any dictatorship. Art doesn't have any hierarchy, because everything will happen in interaction with the people, because this collaboration is quite important, mutual relations between audiences. Audience grows the artist, audience grows the institution. This is very mutual relationship. Also, lots of kind of the collaboration being together, because art doesn't have any kind of the top hierarchy, because we have to working together with kind of other creative category, and architecture, also design, or even cooking, and all the kind of craftsmanship. So this is also another ideas. That means each has a different things, element, but being together make a certain kind of whole kind of the new situation. That means polyphonic. Each has talking singing different voices, but harmony finally is that's going to be beautiful harmony. This is polyphonic ideas. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Couple more questions. You say in an interview that this goes to the need to rework or redefine the conceptual frameworks that define what a gallery, art space, or biennale are, both on an emotional level and an institutional level. I wanted some light on these two aspects, on the emotional level, what you meant by the emotional level and the institutional levels in an art space.
at a space. Yeah, because that is a very good question, because previously museum professional talking about kind of institutional level. So how the space were organized and how infrastructures and how infrastructures and also climate controls, also securities, and also the condition of the right and everything, and so on. So also even the program. But emotional is very important, because we have to consider the experience inside an art space, also institution, and each individual emotional level, because how they feel it. Because they feel very cold, they feel very isolated. It doesn't work. Because it just be kind of the extension of their home, but slightly tend to be kind of inspiring something new ideas. Also, certain kind of tension. I really have to concentrate to look at this work, because this is the timing, and I have to make a conversation with this piece and myself. I really have to. This is a kind of time and transformation. So that which is very important. This kind of emotion. So that's why I just talking about perception, cognition, and also sensation going to be together. This is the place, a museum, and we're talking about the emotional level. Yeah.
Do you think a curator needs to be an artist himself or herself? Who do you think makes a curator?
Because we are curators, and I'm just joking something, and we are like an animal trainer. We are like a shepherd, so we just walking in the sheep, many stray sheep, to try to make a new kind of way to reach unknown place, because no one knows this road is going to be where. But we just wandering, we just get lost, but we just be together with the sheep, the artist, also audience, be together. So that this is my kind of one of the metaphors, but also a navigator, but also somebody is showing us the one map. But this map is proposed to people, and people can make their own map on it. So this is a kind of like an open proposal. So this is a curator. But I think also curator can be a kind of producer, also poetry, and also good cook, also good researcher, and curator can be everything. So that means we have to see what is life, what is our cultural life, what the culture means. Always we have to excavate it what the culture means, what our life is, both together. So this is the condition that what's going to curator is going to be. And there are many kind of very theoretical, eloquent curators, but this is also one very important kind of roles that how the curator operated the term in the world is the text, but also as well as the curators conducting people the sensation, emotion, also those kind of social emotional environment. Also, it's very important to have a sense to operate those kind of atmosphere. So how the culture is going to be, how the freedom to expression to art can be appear in such a way. Yes.
Okay, finally 2 questions.
Yes.
You published a book from modern women
yes.
artists at the Museum of Modern Art in 2010.
Yes.
Why women alone? And what was your thrust? What was the thrust of your...
Because that is interesting. MoMAs generously invited me to make a research about their collection and women Japanese artists in their collection in MoMA. Because there are quite interesting lineup from Kusama and from Gutai group artists to Mariko Mori to kind of the younger photographer. And that is quite interesting kind of collection they have. Because I try to make some kind of contextualization and what the woman artist, it's a kind of alternative and conceptual art history in Japan. Because Japan is also quite male dominated, because many kind of men and critics are talking about those kind of artworks by men. But because women just additionally like an appendix and talking about that, because I just make one kind of strong kind of contextualization by women artists through. But this is not the kind of the gender feministic action. For me, it's very natural, because they are very interesting kind of the artists there, and I have to make a focus on to bring some awareness, and their work is here. Also, their work is very interesting. Also, now we really have to consider about importance their own works in the context. That means contextualization is very important for me in the context of that text. Yeah, it's an alternative history of the conceptual art.
One final question.
Yes.
In light of what you spoke to me about, do you think your practice of art in general, or particularly your practice as a curator, does it seek to redefine masculinities in the art space? Are there masculinities in the art space at all?
Yes, because most of the museum is it's a quite typical style, because this is the entrance and kind of big galleries, and there's no space for the people, because people just really excluded, because they put restaurant, cafes, and bookshop. That always they try to get the money from that. There's no kind of free and open space for people. So try to give an idea to thinking about that, because about the 21st century museum is a big success, because without any purpose 1 million people come in a year. So what the reason is, because that's the contemporary museum, it's small, but there's a lot of kind of public space, because also free to be used. This is also reason, yeah, because those kind of femininity to be those kind of accessibility, also to be kind of comfort, not like a comfort is in somebody's house, comfort in a certain public two people together. It's like an experience in the park, you're very comfortable. You're just alone here, but you get the feeling there is somebody is just laughing, somebody is just eating. So you get a very nice atmosphere. So this is kind of ideas, because new kind of gentle relationships and sequence between individual and the public. This is ideas, and I can say it's an anti-masculine kind of space making ideas. Yeah. I cannot say this is feminine, but anti-masculinity. Masculinity really kind of like this, and kind of centric, very much.
Thank you so much, Yuko. It was such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much. Very nice question. Yeah. Thank you.